What if Hagar's story is about more than Abraham, Sarah, and two sons? What if Paul intended to expose the difference between a life built on rules, performance, and fear, and a life made free by God's promise? In the last episode, we began looking at the symbolic contrast between Sarah, the free woman, and Hagar, the slave woman. Today, we will follow Paul's explanation in Galatians 4 and ask a question that reaches far beyond the ancient world. Are we living in the freedom God gives, or are we still enslaved by religious laws, traditions, expectations, and systems of people? This is the symbolic Hagar. Galatians 4:21 through 23. Tell me, you who want to be under law, are you not aware of what the law says? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, one by the slave woman and the other by the free woman. His son by the slave woman was born according to the flesh, but his son by the free woman was born as a result of a divine promise. Hagar's son Ishmael was born from a fleshly desire that Sarah and Abraham had to have a child. Sarah's son Isaac was born from a promise God had made to Abraham that all nations would be blessed by his seed. Now let's see how Paul explains this comparison in Galatians 4:24 through 26. These things are taken figuratively. The women represent two covenants. One covenant is from Mount Sinai and bears children who are to be slaves. This is Hagar. Now, Hagar stands for Mount Sinai in Arabia and corresponds to the present city of Jerusalem because she is in slavery with her children. But the Jerusalem that is above is free, and she is our mother. It says the women symbolize two covenants. Hagar represents Mount Sinai. Why Mount Sinai? Because this is where the laws of God were given to Moses for the nation of Israel to live by. The penalty for violating some of those laws was death. No human can live perfectly by those laws. Therefore, even Isaac's descendants were enslaved to death under the laws given to Moses. The second covenant, like Sarah's, was given by promise, a promise that frees God's people through the death of Jesus Christ and through faith in God's resurrection of him. So, what does all that have to do with what is happening today? Well, symbolically, Hagar becomes all the religions of the earth. Each one of them has laws that their parishioners must follow or face eternal damnation. In essence, parishioners have become slaves to man-made laws and traditions of each religion. They're not free. And if one is not free from their man-made laws and their traditions, they are enslaved to death. Since Christianity is the world's major religion, let's examine what it believes. I ask this question of AI. Does Christianity teach that only faith is required for salvation and that works are unnecessary? Christianity is not entirely uniform on this question, but major traditions split into two primary views. Protestants teach that salvation is by faith alone, and that good works are the result, not the cause of salvation. Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy teach that saving grace requires a living, active faith expressed through good works and obedience. Once again, Christianity is divided on how to serve God. One Protestant belief is the faith alone debate. Passages like James 2:24, a person is justified by works and not by faith alone, are interpreted by Protestants as meaning that outward works prove to others that a faith is genuine rather than earning salvation before God. Notice that it says that outward works prove to others that a faith is genuine rather than earning salvation before God. Is that true? Here's what Jesus said in Matthew 6:1. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. There is no freedom in having to prove our faith to others by our works. This would condemn us to death without reward, as Jesus told us to do them in secret. What about Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy, which teach that saving grace requires a living, active faith expressed through good works and obedience? If you're not familiar with Catholic practice, let's get some insight. Catholic practices center around liturgical worship, sacramental rites, and personal devotions. The core of the faith involves participating in the 7 sacraments, attending weekly Mass, engaging in regular prayer, and performing works of mercy. Shall we get a clearer understanding of some of the practices mentioned? What is liturgical worship? Liturgical worship is a structured, public form of Christian service that follows a set script or order. What are sacramental rites? Sacramental rites are sacred religious ceremonies that act as outward and visible signs of inward spiritual grace. Look at all the hoops their parishioners are forced to jump through to serve God, as ancient Israel did. They are not free. They are slaves to the laws of men, not to the freedom of God through faith. Our faith in God is shown through our secret, unselfish acts of giving to others, as God and Jesus have shown their unselfish love for us. Jesus said that people who wear their beliefs on their sleeves for all to see are receiving their reward in full now, from people, not from God. That's why you see all the religious leaders taking their seats in high positions worldwide. Some have even taken control of the countries where they live and enforce their religious rule. Are they showing their love for God as Jesus did? Now I would like to examine this symbolic Hagar to an even broader worldwide content. I ask you to take a moment to reflect on all that is going on in the world around you. No matter what you can think of, every government, religion, job, movement, cult, or group has laws that you must abide by if you want to become part of their gang. How are you free? I know you're thinking, but some of these things I need to be a part of, such as work, so how can I be free? Our freedom lies in our choices. Do you choose to be part of a government, a religion, a movement, a cult, or a group that does not uphold the only two laws that matter, as Jesus said in Matthew 22:36 through 40, when asked what the most important laws were? Teacher, what is the most important commandment in the law? Jesus answered, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and most important commandment. The second most important commandment is like this one, and it is, love others as much as you love yourself. All of the law of Moses and the books of the prophets are based on these two commandments. What about work? Ephesians 6:6 through 7. Don't work only while being watched as people pleasers, but as slaves of Christ, doing God's will from your heart. Serve with a good attitude, as to the Lord and not to people. Once again, we are told to show our service to God quietly through actions that God will reward us for, not men. But this holds true for employers. They are looking for people they can trust and entrust with greater responsibility. Remember, trust is earned. God is showing us through a timeline in the Bible that He has proven He is trustworthy. Now we continue that timeline with Isaac, Abraham's son, given by God's promise.